What's up guys, Macadii here, and today we guys, week 4 of the DSL League, where I am up against Daniel Kelly, coach of the Loughborough Lapras. Now if you guys are excited, don't forget to leave a like down below, I would really appreciate it. Now I apologise this video is late, mainly because I've only managed to get my Wi-Fi router up in my room to connect. I'm basically the other side of the house from my main router. And the booster that I've got is just an absolutely terrible thing. Like, I spent 5 hours today probably trying to get it to work. Finally got it to work so I can record for you guys. On top of that as well, I apologise for the terrible lighting setup. That's something that will be fixed hopefully tomorrow, because I did order a sort of extension lead that would have enough sockets basically for me to plug in my lights. But unfortunately they did not arrive today, even though Amazon said they would. But yeah, so what can you do? I'm trying to make do with what I can for the time being, but don't worry, in a couple of days, all of the quality will be back up to where it normally is from there. So we're going to have a quick run through of what he could potentially be bringing, what we're going to be bringing, which I've got a few interesting movesets which I'm quite excited to show you guys, and go on to the battle from there. So he's got Kyurem-Black as his first Pokemon, very spooky, and a very difficult one to try and prep for. Florges, Blastoise, Jolteon, Dugtrio, Whirlipede, which I'm not too worried about, M-Scizor, Chandelure, Regirock, Venusaur, and Machamp. So a very interesting mixture of different Pokemon. The things that I really noticed to start with was, in terms of his hazard control, it's a bit weird. He's only got his Whirlipede, which I really don't expect him to bring, or his Regirock to set up rocks. As far as I'm aware, those are the only ones. And then, oh, and the Dugtrio as well. But I would expect that to be more of a Revenge Killer set rather than like a Stealth Rocks lead set or something like that. So he doesn't have too much in terms of rocks. So Talonflame is going to have a much nicer time against him for that. And also, if I want to bring my own rocks, it's going to really hurt that Kyurem-Black, that Chandelure, and basically most of other things. He doesn't have too many resistances to it. And I think M-Scizor and Blastoise is only hazard removal. So that's quite nice. I can pressure the Blastoise quite easily. And as long as I've got enough fire coverage on my Mons to stop that M-Scizor from defogging, rocks will be really nice as well. So we'll have a sort of run through of what exactly I'm going to be bringing to try and beat the team. So this is the first member I wanted to build around, which is a Life Orb, Sheer Force, Physical Nidoqueen. Now this sounds really weird, and people go, why aren't you going for special like they normally do? Well, actually, if you look at it, it's Nidoqueen's attack is actually much higher than its special attack. So it's quite surprising what it can do on the physical side. So we've got Sucker Punch there. That's mainly to deal with things like the Kyurem-Black. I can't then get trapped by Dugtrio as easily. I think I still do 90 to 100%, I think. So unless it's Sash, and then if it comes in on rocks or something like that, I have a chance to kill, or at least from rocks, I have a very good chance to kill. So that's going to be really nice. Same thing with like Scarf Chandelure. I could catch that off guard, and just, yeah, basically a few other things in the Jolteon, so I can just basically get some nice priority from there. I have to be very careful though, because if that's sub Kyurem-Black, I could be in a big spot of bother from there. Poison Jab and Fire Punch gives me really nice coverage against his team, hitting things like the M-Scizor very hard. If it's an offensive set, I Oko, which is really nice. The only things I don't hit too hard is the Chandelure, but I can Sucker Punch that, and the Regirock as well, which I have switch-ins to, so I'm not massively worried about it. So that's kind of the plan with the Nidoqueen, is to get some really big hits off, set up Stealth Rock as well, because Stealth Rock's going to be really important, and also have some nice priority that's a little bit more surprising. I know it's not the most sort of surprising in terms of everything, but it's still nice to have that sort of priority. Talking about priority, we have the Talonflame here with the Sharp Beak and Gale Wings. This is a very sort of standard Swords Dance set, but I've got max HP on this guy, because when you look at his team, outside of maybe Sucker Punch on the Dugtrio, which I wouldn't expect him to bring considering I can just speed creep that anyway, I outspeed M-Scizor without any speed investment at all, and same with the Machamp as well, so I don't really need any speed in terms of priority, and for Flare Blitz, it's only really for the Scizor. The rest of them, and the maybe the Blastoise as well, but I expect that to be more of a defensive Blastoise if that decides to come. Everything else, I just click Brave Bird on, apart from maybe Regirock, but Regirock is also, that's the other thing to note as well. Regirock's probably his only mon that if I get a Swords Dance up and that guy's gone, rest of his team is basically dead as far as I'm aware. Maybe Kyurem-Black I might need to wear down a little bit because it's really bulky, but basically the plan was to get rid of Regirock if I can, and this Talonflame set should pretty much sweep, especially if I can get that Swords Dance up. The next set we've got is a Mega Gardevoir set. This one's a little bit interesting as well. So I've got the Hyper Voice on there, which basically does a number on most of his team, outside of his only real reliable switch is the Florges and the M-Scizor. Everything else takes a huge amount of damage from it, even the Chandelure, unless it's some weird Spadef set. So I wanted to go for Hyper Voice, and that was going to be my main move that I'm going to spam. Then on top of that, I've got Hidden Power Fire, and this basically allows me to hit the resists like the Venusaur, the Whirlipede, and also the M-Scizor very, very hard from there. Now, obviously, M-Scizor has the chance to revenge and things like that, so what I wanted to do was basically set this guy up so he could set up subs on certain walls that he might bring. So, for example, I'm very sure the Florges will end up coming, because physically defensive stats still walls a Mega Gardevoir, but if I can get my Calm Mind up and then get behind a sub, he does a maximum with that HP investment of 24.9. So basically, if I can get to +1 on the switch as Florges comes in, I can sub up. He tries to go for his Moonblast, doesn't break the sub, and I can just start Calm Minding up and get as many Calm Minds as I can before I then wall break through and sit behind a sub, and that's at least one of them on, still guaranteed to be dead. So that should be really, really nice. I have to obviously watch out things like Iron Head on Kyurem-Black, but I am speed crap for a Life Orb Kyurem-Black because that's his sort of second fastest mon to this. So overall should be very, very powerful for his team. The main threats, as I say, is that it is mainly sort of the Dugtrio and possibly the Jolteon, but the Jolteon still won't be able to revenge too easily if I have a few Calm Minds up. So that's going to be really, really nice. The sub is mainly for the Dugtrio and also helps me ease predictions against the M-Scizor. Next up, we've got our Zoroark set, which is basically going to be designed as bait, to try and bait in that Regirock. If we can try and disguise it as Talonflame throughout the game, we can make him come in and go for Grass Knot on the predicted switch, because it's his #1 switch into that Talonflame. He basically has no other switch to it. I can go for that Grass Knot, and even though I'm not invested, I still do a huge amount, like I think it's 60-70% if it's just max HP. Flamethrower as well does a huge amount to the M-Scizor, but I also really want that priority. I'm hugely worried about things like the Kyurem-Black and being revenged by the Jolteon or even the Dugtrio. So having something with Sucker Punch that works well, I've got so much priority on this team that's going to be really, really nice. And then finally Knockoff as well, because Knockoff just hits his team really nicely. I can knock off things like the Florges and get rid of its item, and obviously I'll be forced to switch, but still, I've got really nice switch-ins like the Talonflame can switch in, the Nidoqueen. Florges is set up fodder for Talonflame, so I could potentially set up with that. So I'm not too worried about the Florges from that point at all. So next up, we've got the Latias. Now this is a difficult choice for me, I must admit, when I sort of sat down and wanted to prep, because I was thinking I've got to bring some sort of hazard removal. While he doesn't have too many options to set up hazards, for example, if the Regirock's in on my Talonflame, I have to switch. So it's very, very easy for him just to click rocks, set those up, and then Talonflame is effectively crippled, especially when it's one of my win conditions and it's a big one. It just doesn't make too much sense to be able to, to make hazards cripple me so much. So I had to think about it, and I thought, first of all, I thought Fortress, because I could HP Fire, do Custap sort of shenanigans with that Mega-Scizor and potentially do a huge amount of damage. But then I calced it, and even if he's just max HP, I do like 50%, 60%, something like that. So not as much as maybe when George had a go at doing that on Larza-Scizor in the GBA. So I decided what I want to do is bring some sort of supportive Latias set. So this guy is designed to basically ease that pressure that Kyurem-B is putting on me, Dugtrio from revenge killing, and Mega-Scizor with those bullet punches. So being able to set up potentially the light screens and the reflects means that it also helps the Talonflame set up those SDs, especially that HP investment, and most importantly the Gardevoir, because the Gardevoir can set up so many more free subs, because everything is going to be doing, basically, everything's going to be cut in half. So I can set up subs, so I can Calm Mind on so many more potential threats than I could otherwise. So that's going to be really, really nice. Defog there, as I said, to get rid of hazards and any of his screens if he decides to bring them. And then I decided Draco Meteor was the best way to go, because I just wanted another way to be able to nuke that Kyurem-B if it was non-Scarf or anything like that. And I don't expect to be clicking it too much. I know I'm set up bait for the Florges, but as I said, I can just switch out, go into my Gardevoir, go into my Talonflame, and Florges is set up fodder. So I'm not too worried about giving a free switch into that Florges. Now finally, we've got another very interesting set. We've got a Scrappy Miltank with Return, Fire Punch, Curse, and Milk Drake. I don't know, I'm not expecting this guy to sweep, but I'm expecting him to be able to set up a few curses, be very, very difficult for my opponent to be able to revenge kill. And the combination of Return and Fire Punch actually gives me fairly neutral coverage outside the Regirock. Unless that Regirock or something like that's got Toxic, I can basically still set up and wear down that Regirock. So I wouldn't be I'm not too worried about that. And yeah, basically designed to be my special wall, but also a setup guy as well. I can take Ice Beams from Kyurem-Black if it's max special attack Life Orb. I can take those on, I can go for curses, and after one curse, I'm kind of able to wall a Kyurem-B, not particularly well, but just about, and I can still do a fair amount with a return at +1. So that's kind of the plan with this guy. Even if he just gets one kill, that's going to be really, really nice for us, and it still functions as a very, very good special wall for us. So what I'm going to do now is move over to the battle where we can see what happens from there. Okay, so we are at the battle, and as you can see, he does end up bringing the Regirock, which I was expecting, the Kyurem-Black, which is very, very spooky. I'm expecting either like a Life Orb or a Scarf sort of variant to wall break me, or potentially sort of clean up, because I've got quite a lot of offense on my team. So, I could potentially be bringing, so I would expect maybe a Scarf variant on that. Chandelure was a little bit tricky. I'm not too sure, I wasn't too sure at the time what that could be, possibly Scarf, possibly Specs, or some sort of just bulky leftovers offensive variant. It's very, very hard to tell. Then we got the Regirock, as I said, most likely some sort of bulky set to counter my Talonflame. A Scizor, which I'm hoping is going to be more of like an offensive one than a defensive one, because it makes it a lot easier for all of my fire coverage to sort of do its magic and destroy it. And then finally, the weirdest one I must admit is the Venusaur. Now, I looked at it and I was like, there's no way it's Sunsweeper, because that makes no sense at all. The amount of priority I've got, like the Sucker Punches potential, and the Talonflame as well being the main one. This must be some sort of Spadef variant or something like that as a switch into the Gardevoir. I was expecting maybe like a Spadef variant with the Psychic Berry, something like that, because that's a really good sort of bait for my Gardevoir to go for that go for a Hyper Voice, switch into it, and have enough HP investment and defense investment to take a Psyshock or a Psychic with that berry, and then KO back with the Sludge Bomb. So that was kind of my thought on that, so I had to keep that in my mind when I was playing. So to start with, I was like, alright, I want to bring up my Zoroark, and basically bait him to go into his Regirock by pretending to be the Talonflame. But I kind of goofed up which mons I picked, and I ended up pretending to be Miltank, which was quite funny. So out comes the Kyurem-B here. Very, very spooky start, and I need to try and work out what sort of set he is. So if he decides to stay in here and go for like an very powerful attacking move or something like that, he's most likely some sort of boosting, like a Life Orb variant or something like that. But if he switches, he's more likely to be some sort of Scarf variant, fearing me to T-Wave, or even knowing that he won't be able to break my Miltank, because he thinks this is my Miltank, obviously, at this point. So what I decided to do, the safest thing is just to go into my Miltank, because that is designed to take us, a reasonable number of hits, and he does end up switching out as well, so that's very, very interesting. And the thing to note there as well is he outsped me. So when he switched out, then I switched out. I've got 105 speed. I'm speed crept to outspeed a normal variant of Kyurem-B. So that indicates straight away, that tells me so much information. That tells me that he's Scarf, literally from the fact that he switched out first. So out comes my Miltank. This is actually a very happy situation for me. I've got my Fire Punch for on to, but I decided I'm going to get a curse up here in case, and see what he wants to do from here. So I get my curse up, so that's very, very nice. So we outspeed him and get that curse up. Well, obviously next time with the speed drop, we won't be outspeeding him. He does go for that U-turn. He does a reasonable amount of damage, indicating he's most likely some, high invested in attack. Out comes the Chandelure. Now, this was a difficult choice for me. I was like, I can either go for the Milk Drink to scout, because if he's a Scarf variant, even though I've not got that thick fat, anything that he wants to go for against me will do less than 50%. If he's a Specs variant, it's going to do quite a bit more, and potentially KO me after that, even after that leftovers boost. Or he could even trick me from here. So it was a very difficult choice for me. And I decided probably my best bet, just to scout, was to go for Milk Drink. Looking back on it, it was probably not the best play, because he goes to the Flamethrower and he reveals to be Life Orb, and that does a whole load of damage. And I actually, just because of scouting, I lose about 5%, something like that, which is still quite important. He ends up over-predicting here, going for the Shadow Ball. I just want my kill, so I just go for the return here. And as you can see, I've got enough HP now to be able to live another Flamethrower, and I do live it. And now I can go for that return, and Miltank's got its kill. And that's kind of all that's all I needed, was Miltank just to get one kill. 1 for 1, I'm very, very happy with that. As I said, I'm not expecting it to sweep his team, just to be able to put some shenanigans in to kill something. So he goes for a U-turn here, and does take out my Miltank. So that's a real shame. Out comes the Kyurem-B now. Now, I've got a good indication that this might be Scarf. So I go into my Gardevoir here. Now, this is bait, because I'm expecting him to go for, lock himself into Iron Head, or something like that. He can't go for a Dragon move. He can't really go for an Ice Beam, because it's not going to do enough, and I can just blast him back with a Hyper Voice, and Kyurem's going to be very important for him, especially being Scarf, because it's his main way is actually his only way to be able to outspeed things like the Latios, which he could be very scared of, and any other potential scuffs I've got from there. And also outspeed the Gardevoir as well, because now nothing else outspeeds the Gardevoir. So I'm expecting him to go for Iron Head, or at least switch from here if he's not got it. So he does end up switching here, and goes into the Scizor, as I'm able to switch out here, and I go into my Nidoqueen, because I'm expecting the Iron Head of everything. I don't expect him to predict me to switch. As I said, I'm expecting him to either switch or go for that Iron Head. So out comes the Scizor. Now at this point I was like, do I set up my rocks here, or do I just go for that Fire Punch and just get a huge amount of damage and potentially kill this Scizor? And I decided I'm going to risk it. I'm going to go for the Fire Punch. I've got a decent amount of speed investment. I do outspeed and I kill the Scizor from there. So that's really, really fantastic. Taking that Scizor out takes so much pressure off my Gardevoir, and that was really, really nice for me. Out comes Kyurem-B here. Now I was like, oh, I don't have too much to switch into a Scarf Ice Beam. I could, you know, because that's no longer Miltank. I don't know why Showdown does this. That's actually my Zoroark. I don't really know what else I can go into, so I'm kind of going to sack off my Nidoqueen. So I decided just to sack off my Nidoqueen, as he actually over-predicts, goes for the Fusion Bolt, and that's absolutely huge. So he was expecting me to go into something like the Talonflame, but predicting me to maybe be a Spadef Talonflame, or even going into something like, I don't know, my Mega Gardevoir or something like that might take 2 Ice Beams. So I go for the Poison Jab here, getting a huge amount of damage off. So from here, I know he's going to switch. I could go for some Poison Jabs, but I know that Regirock's probably coming in, because that's his #1 switch into this sort of set. Even if I got the Earthquake, because it's not that Sheer Force boost, I don't think it's going to do too much. So I just go for my Rocks here. Really limits the Kyurem-B switching in late game, and it's going to be really, really huge, especially when I've got rid of the Scizor and stuff like that. So out comes my Latias. It's my best switch to this. If he T-Waved me, I wouldn't be too sad. He sets up his own Rocks here, as I try and decide what to do here. So I go for Defog. I want to get rid of my, I know I get rid of my Rocks on his side, but I want to get rid of Rocks on my side as well. He goes for T-Wave here. That's quite unfortunate. Now I had to think about what to do here. He decides to stay in and go for Stone Edge. That's really nice for me. I'm just like, hell, let's just set up our screens. So I get the Reflect up, which is very, very nice. And I can get up the Light Screen, which is really, really good. So here, I was like, do I keep my Latias, or do I just sack it off here? Knowing, as I said, I can't touch this Florges or do anything at all to it. What the main thing was, is he going to Wish? Is he going to Moonblast? Or is he going to Toxic, if he's got the Toxic? And I was like, looking at it, I can't see him going for Toxic, because considering I'm already paralyzed, it just doesn't make too much sense. I'm expecting Wish or Moonblast. Possibly the Wish to try and get back into the Kyurem-Black and get some HP up. That would be his most likely play from there. So I decided I'm going to switch here and go into my Gardevoir. This is the setup I needed. I've got my screens up. I can set up a sub. I don't even need the +1 Calm Mind now. And I can actually get behind a sub, and this Florges cannot touch me. So I get the sub up here. Really, really fantastic, because he goes for Moonblast and not doing much at all. I can now get a Calm Mind up, because I can't Twit KO the Florges from just uninvested range. So I'm just going to get another sub up and just be very, very cheeky, as he ends up switching out here into the Venusaur. Now this is like, I'm sure this is going to be some sort of Spadef variant, something like that. But I've got my HP Fire, I'm just going to go for that, and it should 2-hit KO a Spadef variant. And as you can see, it does. And this is the crazy thing, a Sludge Bomb does not break my sub. I guess I am +1 behind a screen, but still, I was expecting it to at least break my sub from there. So I'm able to take out the Venusaur, and we've got a bit of a sort of Mega Gardevoir cleanup from here, which is absolutely fantastic. So my Reflect does wear off, so out comes Mr. Reggie. Hyper Voice, straight up Okos. Out comes the, I think the Florges. Yeah, out comes the Florges. I can just go for another I go for another Calm Mind here, because I know, just in case, depending on the variant, I might not be able to. So I get my Calm Mind up in case he was like some weird Spadef variant, and I'm just going to fire off another Hyper Voice and basically get 4 kills to clean up with Mega Gardevoir, which is really nice to see. Mega Gardevoir working its way up the MVP race. Another Hyper Voice doing 86%. See, as you can see, I did need that investment, because otherwise I'd be doing about 43% to this Florges. And the final Hyper Voice is going to go through, and that is going to be game from there, and we are going to win 5-0. So I know this battle was long, and I did talk a lot about the team build-up. Anyway, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, and I will see you guys at the next one. Macadii out.